news from the Flatlands and deep roots.
Mike Bolin here, and welcome to the next edition of the Flatlanders Show. Well, I'm back down in the silver shop again today. I'd planned on going fishing this week, but as in true spring fashion here on the high plains, the wind is blowing more than a gust. In fact, it's supposed to get up to 50 miles an hour today. So I decided I'd come back down here and build something in the silver shop. I have a lot of projects going on down here, and I can never have to look far to find something to do down here. And today we're going to do a sand casting of an arrowhead. And it's a very interesting process. It's an ancient process. It started about 6,000 years ago in China. And it's pretty much the same now. We call it sand casting still, but instead of sand, I use Delft Clay. And Delft Clay is a product out of Sweden, I believe, and it's a real pure form of a sand, that it doesn't have all the impurities of regular sand, because regular sand can have copper in it, it can have arsenic in it, it can have lead in it, it can have a lot of other elements in it that can be very dangerous, especially if you're inhaling them here in the shop. And all of this, there's a lot of heat involved in this entire process, as you'll see. But anyway, we're going to make this cast with the Delft Clay method, and throughout this podcast, it's going to be a lot like the last one. I'm filming it myself, so I'm going to try to get the best shots I can. It's a long process. It'll probably take me a couple of days to get finished with it, but I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and it's very interesting. So we're going to get started. I'm going to reposition the camera, and as we go along, I'll explain the process a little to you, and I hope you enjoy this show. Okay, these are all the products we're going to be using today. First of all, this is our Delft Clay. You can see its consistency. It is more like a clay than a sand. And this has been used before. One of the good things about it is you can reuse this and reuse this. As you'll see at the end of the process, there'll be some burn spots on it where when we pour the silver into the mold, that it'll scald it and it'll leave some burning on it. You have to take that off. I just cut that off with a knife and then I reuse it. I don't know how many times I've reused this, but that's our clay material. And next we'll look at the silver we're going to use. I'll explain a little bit about it. These are all pieces that have been melted and turned into ingots. This is a piece of sterling, and that's 0.925. that's been turned into ingot. This is another ingot we made, and it's marked 0.925 as well. It's from some reclaimed silver we had, and this is a bar of pure 999, or as pure as we go. It was 50 ounces actually. And these are some pieces of projects that I was working on, some bracelets and what have you, and it was just stuff that came up that ended up in the pile, in our silver pile. And this is the silver we're going to use today. It looks all dirty and everything, but you can see if you get the light on it, it's still silver, and it'll look beautiful when we're done. So that's our silver that we're going to use. And these is the mold, the actual mold. And it's a two-piece mold, and it goes together like this. It goes together like this, and you take the clay and you fill the clay into you do one at a time. You fill the clay in, you'll pound it down. You got to get everything pounded down and evened up, and then we'll pick out an arrowhead. I've been looking at these arrowheads. These are not actual arrowheads. These are, well, they are arrowheads. They're just not ancient ones. They're ones that a guy named Dwight Gomer out of Odessa makes these. He naps arrowheads, and he does a really fine job. I think this is the one I'm going to do. The lady who wants this, she wanted this one or this one. And this is about as big as I can get on this jig. As you can see, it'll fit, but it doesn't leave much on the sides. And as you see this process, one of the things we have to do when we get this point in here is we have to have air escape holes that we'll put in it. And we'll show you that as we go along the way. But right now, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to fill this with Delft clay. I beat it down with a hammer. I'll show you a little of that process, and we'll get ready. And while I'm going through it, I'll be looking at these and decide which one I think will be the best for today's project. Okay, I went ahead and I've chosen this arrowhead, and I've got enough clay out here, and I'm going to show you just a little bit about it, how you have to do it. Actually, this is something that for very little money you could get started, and you could cast Delft clay, the Delft clay method, and you don't need a whole lot of tools. But the first thing you want to do is I'm going to go through here and I'm going to chop this up really fine, and it'll take me a while because there's, you know, I've done this long enough, and I've seen a lot of people do it over the years, and some people I know they don't chop it up as fine as I do, but when it gets used like this especially, you'll start getting clods in it, and this stuff is expensive. I don't know off the top of my head. I know that whenever I buy it, I'm astonished by how much it costs. I'm sure it's gone up now with inflation. So I reuse it as much as I can, and I never have any problems with my castings, provided I chop it very finely. So I'm going to work on this a bit, and then I'll be back. Okay, I have it chopped up. Now I'm going to fill the first part of the mold. You have one of the molds has a male end, and the other end of the mold is a female end. And the way I do this, I use this. This is a block that I use in silver smithing. A bench block. I actually use two of them. I might show you that on a different show. But I like to have a nice flat bottom on it. Doesn't really matter, but I just like everything to be, when I'm done, I like it to be nice and neat and well and uniformed. But I push this in this mold as hard as I can with my fingers, and I'll bring it up here. Oops, I'm hitting that camera. Sorry about that. I still haven't figured out the best way to set everything. Learn as you go. When I get it to that point, I'll take a hammer. I like this one here, and I'll just start compacting it. I want it compacted nice and hard. So I'll go about it. You can see how I'm mounding it up, and I'll do that. Then I'll peel it off. A lot of people use a ruler. I've used this old knife in this shop for a jillion things, and I'll pull it off smooth, just like that. Sand casting isn't as accurate as a lost wax cast. There are going to be some occlusions. There are going to be some imperfections in it, and more people like that because they know it's an original piece. They know it's a hand done sand cast, and that carries more value than just a regular lost wax piece. At least that's my experience in what I sell. So we'll move on. The next thing I do is I'll take this arrowhead and I'll put it in close to where I can get it on both ends, just like that, and I will start working it down in to this clay with my hands. Like I say, you can see that it's, and you just have to be careful with it, not get in too big of a hurry. And I'm going to work that in. Okay, I got it pressed down pretty good. Next thing you have to do is you have jeweler's talc, and you put that talc all over it. And what it keeps from doing is it keeps everything from sticking. And I'll put that much on it, and I'll brush it. Slowly brush it around all over. And I use more than a lot of people do. But you can sure see some of the imperfections in that clay. I could have done a little better than that, I guess. But, okay, I'll line up this, my top, with this here. Right there. Make sure it's exactly on the money before I start. Okay, let me see. That looks pretty dadgum good. Put it right there. Next thing is, we put the Delft clay on the top, like this. Hope I have enough. I got enough. I have some. Okay, I wish I could say I had it all right by the skin of my teeth, but I didn't. I had to get some more Delft out and cut it up and chop it up. But now I'm in good shape. And I'll pound it some more. Do the same thing we did before on the other one and pull it across there. And there we go. There we go. Now, I'm going to clean this up just a tad, get that out of the way, and then we'll pull this apart. And you want to just pull it as straight off the top as you can. Look at that, it's stuck on that one. What I can do is, as you'll see through this process, I'm going to be drilling some air holes and stuff, and I know where I'm going to drill them, and one of the places I'm going to drill them is right back on that foot of that piece. So I'll use that to get it up as carefully as I can. There you go. There you have it. You have your mold. Okay. We're ready to start drilling the air holes and the hole that's going to be the sprue hole, where we're actually going to pour the metal down into the mold. Let's see now. I'm going to take this, and if I do it like this, I'm not going to mess up the mold, and I'll just use it like a drill tip, and I will just drill that puppy all the way through. Okay, one. Then I'm going to go around and make air holes, and what I do is I'm going to make one here, and I'll go all the way through, same way I did with this. I'll make one on the back here, make one here, I'll make one here, make one here. I get a little carried away on this, but you know, the thing about not having good air holes is if you don't, you're gonna miss it sometimes. You'll pour and you'll only get half of it. And I don't. I usually get these, and I'll put it right off those tips. And then what I'll do is I'll go through and I'll make a channel from here to my hole. And all that channel does is it allows the air to flow, right? Even on these short ones. And this piece has you'll see a lot of people not using many of them when they have a round piece or a simple piece. But this isn't a simple piece. This piece has got a lot of relief in it all over. So, and I'm gonna just showing you this. I'm gonna shut the camera off when I do it, because I take a lot of time with this, because to me it's the very most important part of it, of this. Okay, that took somewhat time, but you can see I'm very particular. I put a lot of holes, and you see this big hole here. What I do on the back side, this is the side we're going to pour from, and you can see I'll make sure all the air holes are clear. Here's one that's not, and I use an old file. I have a lot of files, and I use old file for this, an old round one. It's always worked good for me, and it's just one of the cheap files I bought at Harbor Freight. It's not one of my good German files, but there you have it. And what I'll do is, you can see I'm making a funnel here. It's sort of hard for me to show you exactly. I got to be careful because I don't want it to funnel all the way through to the other side. But I spent a lot of time creating this, because this is really, if you're going to have an obstruction, this is where you're gonna have it usually, is right in here in that hole. So I will, then I'll use my brush, and I'm still a good ways from it, and I'm gonna take out more, but I'm gonna have to sit down and really get precise on it, so I won't be able to do it in front of the camera. But what do we do after I get that hole precise the way I want it? Well, I go back on this piece and I find there are my two places, and I join them together right there. And when I come back, they'll be joined together and they'll be upright. This will be on top and it'll be ready to pour silver in. The next thing we have to do is melt the silver, and then we'll about be there. Okay, there we go. That's what it looks like. Of course, the bottom, there's nothing on that bottom. And we're gonna heat up some silver. This is the vessel I heat it in. I put that in my furnace. It's gonna take about 30 minutes for it to heat up. Then when it melts, you can see the lip on it there. Of course, I'll be holding it with tongs. It'd be pretty hot like this, but let's see, about 1750 degrees. Yeah, and then I'll pour it in and hopefully it'll all work. Still waiting. We're at 1720 is where we need to be, but really I do it at 1850. We still have a ways. It's been about 30 minutes. It heats up very slowly. We're ready to go. What silver shop wouldn't be complete without two outboard motors in them. Yeah, only on the high plains. Okay, we're up to 1600 now. I'll shut it down for a bit and start getting everything ready. Okay, put it back on the tripod. We're at 1711. We'll check it. See, you can tell it hasn't melted yet. So I'm going to give it to about 1800, and before I apply the flux. Okay, we're getting ready. It's getting close. Got to put on the safety. Well, we got it. We made it, but I hate it because it all went off without a hitch. I thought I was filming, and for some reason the record button had popped off on its own. But I'll just try to reenact it as best I can. I grabbed this. I came over. You can see the silver. I'll just pour a little in there. It's not going to do nothing. But I poured it in there. It went down in the vessel. It looks so cool too. I'm just so sorry you missed it. I let it sit there for a while. I never did even turn off the camera. Then I opened it up, and when I opened it up, it had my piece right there. I pulled it loose, and so I'll go through it with you again. So here is the sprue of it. This is where we actually poured it down in. That thing is still hotter than the blazes. Yeah, I mean, look at that. That is beautiful. I mean, just imagine what that's going to look like once it's cleaned up. And that's what we'll do next. But the main thing I wanted to show you here, the only thing is just, I'd scraped all the, you saw all the char on it, and I scraped all that off. I want to give you all an idea of, if you're new at this, about how much you could reuse. And typically this is how I'll use it all. I get the char off, I'll go back in and I'll chop it up a little bit just to make it manageable. I'll put it back, I'll seal it back in an airtight sack, and I'll use it next time. So as you can see, there was very little loss on this. Okay, here we are. We're gonna, first of all, we have to clean this piece up. You can see there's a place here and here. There's many places. What I use to get those off is I'll use a pair of spruing pliers. I use these when I'm lost wax casting. They have a lot of strength. They have this compound joint, and they make it pretty easy. I'll do one real quick, and you can see what I'm talking about. And some people like to saw everything. The reason I stick away from sawing so much is I'm horrible at it. And all my weaknesses here on the bench is my greatest. But I'll just take care of this thing. It gets really precise. It's a really good. Oh, got a little off, but that won't really matter. I can fix all that up. And then the next thing I will have to cut. I've already started it. You can see it. I started the cut with my saw, and this is I use a new concept saw. I use a really good saw. I'm really bad at it, so I got a really good saw, and that helped. And I also, this is one of the key things, is key lube. You have to keep this thing lubed up, or it'll stick, and it's so easy to break these little small thin blades. But I'm gonna have to put it on a vise to cut it, and after I cut it, I'll cut it off, and I'll be right back. Just bring you a little bit into the end of this, and I feel good. I didn't break a blade. I'm famous for breaking blades. I'm about through it. But see, I have this little easy hold vise, and it makes it a whole lot easier for me. And the thing is you know, it's like anything. It's just takes a lot of practice, and I don't get to practice with this very much. I don't do just a whole lot of sawing, but I got it off pretty good. It's gonna work pretty good. Pull it out of there. It's not bad. A little bit on that side, but not bad. I can work with that. Here, what I do, and a lot of people I know would just use their saw, but I like my sprue pliers. They make work go quick. And there's a tendency you can bend pieces with it. You have to be careful, but you got to be careful with all this stuff. But yeah, I'll work on that for a while, and I'll get it straight. I'm gonna work on some of these. I'll hit, you know, I can knock off a lot quick with this. And also, once again, I'll use this sanding. As you can tell, this thing is really can use that. This is, keep on hitting that camera. I apologize. Okay, we're back. We're on the wheel. I'll show you. That was a combination of sanding, filing, and using the Kratex wheel to get it in that kind of condition. And in places where it was bad, you can see you can't even tell where the sprue was. In places where it's bad, it still has some. It's not perfect, but that's the point of a sand cast or a Delft Clay cast. We'll turn it on now, and I'll show you a little bit of the cleaning process, and we'll be ready to move on to the next step. Always got to put a little fresh zam in it. I'm about out of zam. I need to open up that other tube. But like everything out here, zam is expensive as well. I'll go through and look at that. You can already tell. Just like I say, using the 3M wheels is nice, but I mean, look at that. That's what I love about silver, is it almost looks liquid. Okay, there you go. It's clean, and I'm weighing it. It's 2.635. I think I said it was going to be 2.3, Troy. I can't remember exactly. Maybe I said 2.2. When I'm editing it, I'll check it out and see how close I was. But anyway, it's a heavy piece. And as you can tell, it's a beautiful piece. Okay, for the next stage, I'll make this hook I'm going to put on it. This little loop I'm going to put on it. And I use the double half round, which is the same thing that we used to construct the bracelet with, the coin bracelet with. It's very good material. I use it for so many things. And the way I make this is I hit that in my duckbills like that, and I just make a real hard bend in it, just about like that. There we go. And then I'll just clip it. Usually better to look at it from that angle. Make sure I've got it where I want it. About there should be perfect, I think. Yeah, that'll do nicely. And I'll put it right there like that. And I'll form on it a little bit, file on it a little bit, but you can see sort of the profile of it. Combinate a big chain. Heavy piece is going to have a heavy chain. And where I'm going to put it exactly, I usually like to mount them about right there. All right, like that. And I'll play around with that. But when I come back, I'll have it filed and set up, and we'll solder it, and we'll pickle it one last time. We'll do a few little adjustments on it, and we'll call it done. Okay, I have it I've got the piece up here. It's finished out. It's been filed to a good edge to where everything's flush. It's about where I want it. I use this old heat block with just some nails on it. I have a big tripod, but sometimes I'm better with tools I make, because this allows me to sit in my chair when I do the soldering and get comfortable. And because on this, the thing about soldering this, I will tell a little bit about soldering a piece this big, is, you know, I'll take the solder, and what I do, I've shown this earlier, but I'll show it again. I take the solder, I make a couple pieces up. I always hold my pliers like that so they don't go flying down. I hold them flush with the edge of that. I don't need them. I like them when they're, that one's a little big. The bigger they are, the harder they, you know, it takes them more heat to get it to flow. That's not going to be a super big issue in here. There's a bigger issue in here though. When I put, like, I'll put a piece right, that's what I'm saying. This is a real balancing act. It's frustrating. I put one there, and then I'll put another one. I'll slide one over here. I put two actually right there, but you get the point. I get all that in place, and if I heat from the top, I'll get this piece hot first, and when that happens, and I'm using on this, I'm using a hard solder. It requires the most heat for it to melt. And I'm doing that because the tendency of going on top, the solder will move up onto this piece, and when that happens, you got to really get the piece hot to draw it back down into this big old chunk of silver. So I'll set it up here, and I'll just comfortably get behind under it with my torch, as I'll show you in a minute, and I'll sit and I'll take my time, and I'll get it real hot from the bottom. I'll get it to where it's melting from the bottom, and then I know it's time to come up here. I'll go around it. I'll get this bale heated up as well, and we'll have good flow, and we'll get good connection, because these can be pretty tricky because of the heaviness of this. And the tendency, you know, most people, they'll get over a piece, and that's how they'll heat it. And as you'll see in my process, because I am going to try to show you the soldering process this time, so you get an idea of how the solder flows and how I use the flux. But anyway, yeah. So I'm going to set it up, and I'm going to set it up set the next shot up for the actual torch, and we'll go from there. Okay, here we are. Knock it apart. The delicate part. You can see I do this. See if I'm successful or not. It's gonna be hard. I have to, like I said, I go from the bottom, and I got my heat up a little bit too much. I already put my flux on it. I like to listen to it. Sounds like scrambling eggs. I know I'm on the money. Old silversmith taught me that. And yeah, but I heat the bottom first. If you heat that top piece, a double round, I promise you that solder will go running up and stick on the half round. This takes a minute or two. A little bit more, like that. It's a lot of metal to heat through. You can see that buildup of the Cooper mill. I've got good amount of, and I'll come back over here and I'll hit it from here. But you see, I'm keeping it again. I'm keeping it on that big heavy, and then I'll run it a little over the top of that. I want to get some melt down here though before I concentrate on getting it up on that piece of double round. Slowly. I see, I think I'm about there on this edge. You can tell you gotta get it hot. It's real easy to melt even that heavy. I burned up and melted the half round before. Yeah, I got it pretty hot. It ought to start here in a minute. It always takes a little longer. I think it did. I'll take it up a little bit hotter. There she goes. There she goes. And it took a little, but it takes more than that. You'll see it, hopefully you can see it. You can see that one piece now is red hot. And it didn't run up that piece, but you can see it now spreading across the arrowhead. And you can bet that got welded. And we didn't get any of the solder running up the double round. So I'll quench that in some pickle solution. One final cleaning and we're there. Well, there we have it. Polished, looking good. Everything on the back is looking good. Looking real good. And to give you an idea how it'll hang, I'll put this chain I've got. Another thing is I always make these big enough that they'll accommodate even this side. See, this will go all the way, because that's one of the things. It's bad. You'll make one of these and you'll put your hook on there, and then it won't, nothing will fit. And you have to strip it all the way back down the chain to get it on. Not with one like this. And how will it hang? Well, it's going to hang nice. It'll hang really pretty, just like that. Hangs. It's out of the way of the relief cuts here, but it'll hang really beautiful. And that's going to bring this one to a close. Well, that's going to about wrap it up for today. I'm wearing this piece. I thought I'd show it at the end. That is a sturdy piece of bling now. A really beautiful piece. Yeah. So we hope you all enjoyed sitting in and watching me make it. Don't forget at the end of this episode to hit the like and subscribe button, and also leave a comment. For those who subscribe and leave a comment, you'll be eligible for our first day of summer giveaway, where we're going to give away that coin bracelet that I made last week down here in the shop. So until next time, we hope you all have a great day and a great week, and we'll see you back here on the Flatlanders Show.
Be there to switch.